Welcome to the State Procurement Office's workshop number SPO 220, Evaluating Proposals for RFPs for Health and Human Services pursuant to HRS Chapter 103F. This workshop will provide a brief overview of evaluating proposals received in response to a request for proposals. To refresh your memory, let's summarize what we have learned so far about the RFP process for procuring health and human services. First, we started with planning, which is covered under HAR Chapter 3-142. Remember, planning is an oh so important part of the procurement process. Next, we did a request for information, which is covered under HAR Chapter 3-142. Conducting an RFI is mandatory when preparing and developing an RFP. And third, we put together and issued the RFP covered under HAR Chapter 3-143. We posted the procurement notice on the internet and the request for proposals on the RFP website. We conducted the orientation, which is mandatory, and issued addenda as applicable. The proposal submittal deadline is set at a minimum 28 days from the date the procurement notice is first published. Then proposals are submitted. Now, what do we do with the proposals and where do we go from here? If you are the RFP coordinator, then you continue to take charge and play an active role in the procurement process. As the coordinator, you need to dedicate time to keep on top of the process, being mindful of the timeline and what needs to be done. As needed, have the commitment of your team members. Also, before the proposal submittal deadline, be sure that the evaluators are aware of the time commitment for evaluating proposals received in response to the RFP. As the proposals are being submitted, be sure that your clerical staff are informed about the RFP. The proposal shall be date-stamped and, when possible, time-stamped. The staff should also know where proposals should go as it is received and know who to refer questions to. If there is more than one drop-off site, ensure that each office is aware of what to do if an applicant submits a proposal there. Also, if your agency has offices which are not designated drop-off points, then inform those offices about what to do in case someone tries to drop off a proposal there. Prior to the proposal submittal deadline, all proposals shall be kept in a secure place and not examined until the submittal deadline. After the proposals are opened, save the proposal envelopes until after awards are made or contracts are executed. And the reason for this is if anyone questions when an applicant's proposal was received, you have the evidence at hand. Now, when is the proposal considered received by the purchasing agency? Proposals that are hand-delivered are considered received when actually received by the purchasing agency. Proposals received by United States Postal Service is considered to be received on the date that the proposal is postmarked. However, it shall actually be received by the purchasing agency within 10 days from the postmark date. Proposals which are sent by courier services such as FedEx and UPS are considered hand deliveries, therefore are considered received when actually received by the purchasing agency. Late proposals are covered under HAR Section 3-143-603. Proposals received after the set deadline are late and are rejected. You do not want to set precedents by accepting a proposal after the proposal submittal deadline, even if it's 1 minute late. Late is late. A notice of rejection is sent to the applicant along with a copy of the timestamp portion of the proposal package. The purchasing agency shall also include in the notice that the rejected proposal can be retrieved from the purchasing agency within 30 days at which time it may be discarded in accordance with HAR Section 3-143-612. Pursuant to HAR Section 3-143-615, the purchasing agency shall prepare a register proposals within 10 working days or a reasonable time after the submittal deadline and shall be made available to the public. The register shall include the RFP title and the number and the name of each one of the applicants submitting a proposal. HAR Section 3-143-616 states that RFP documents shall be available for public inspection to the extent permitted under current law governing information practices after execution of a contract by all parties. The procurement file shall include, but is not limited to, the register of proposals, a listing of all known providers that were distributed with copies of the RFP, names of successful applicants and the dollar amounts requested as applicable, the basis of which the award or awards were made, a copy of the RFP, and copy of the proposal submitted. Confidentiality is covered under HAR Section 3-143-403F and HAR Section 3-143-604. All proposals are to be kept confidential and cannot be opened prior to the proposal submittal deadline. After the submittal deadline, before award and execution of contracts, all proposals are to be kept confidential to avoid disclosure of contents to competing applicants. Now let's look at the evaluation process. After the proposal submittal deadline, a preliminary review of each proposal shall be done, making sure that all required documents are there. The proposal application checklist can be used for purposes of a preliminary review. Hopefully, all the applicants are registered on Hawai'i Compliance Express so that you can verify their compliance. If they're not registered on HCE and the compliance verification does not accompany the proposal, it's not grounds for rejecting the proposal. Prior to award of a contract, the applicant would have to be in compliance with the Department of Taxation, Internal Revenue Service, the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, and the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. So what if the proposal is missing some document? There are three types of omissions. First, a required document is missing, but by not providing it along with the proposal, it would not affect the evaluation of the proposal, such as the table of contents. Second, the provider forgot to include additional information, but the proposal is still responsive to the RFP without it, such as some budget justification form. The proposal can still be evaluated, but you may have to minus points for the section missing the information if it was a proposal submittal requirement and part of the evaluation criteria. Third, a big chunk of the proposal is missing. The omission is so massive that the proposal is rendered non-responsive. This proposal is one that can't be evaluated, but this does not occur very often. So what is a responsive proposal and a responsible applicant? A responsive proposal would be one that addresses and conforms in all material respects to a purchasing agency's RFP or solicitation for statements of qualifications. A responsible applicant is an applicant that has the capability in all respects to perform fully the contract requirements. Now let's talk a little about the evaluation committee. HAR Section 3-143-205B covers evaluators. Evaluation of proposals can be done by 1, the procurement officer alone, or 2, an evaluation committee of reviewers selected by the head of the purchasing agency or the procurement officer. The committee shall consist of a minimum of 2 state employees with sufficient education and training to evaluate the proposals received. Evaluators shall not have any actual or appearance of conflict of interest. Documentation of the evaluation team selection shall be included in the procurement file. Be sure that the head of the purchasing agency or the procurement officer approves the selection. Non-state employees cannot be evaluators. They may serve as advisors, but they may not represent or act on behalf of a state agency in any selection or award. As with evaluators, the advisors shall have no conflict of interest or appearance of a conflict of interest. This question pops up every so often, so let's cover it here. We have an RFP where services are provided on multiple islands. Can we have a different evaluation committee for each island? If we refer to HAR Section 3-143-205B, it states, the procurement officer or an evaluation committee of designated reviewers selected by the head of the purchasing agency or the procurement officer shall review and evaluate proposals. The rule does not say committees. It says an evaluation committee, which means one. Another reason why multiple committees may not be good is that evaluation of proposals is subjective. And if one applicant is applying to provide services on all islands and certain proposal sections are the same for each island, there may be scoring differences, which will be questioned and possibly protested by the applicant. If the services are cultural type of differences among islands, but the services are the same, then you might want to consider making the RFP separate and work in the specific needs of the geographic area. The evaluators selected to review proposals should have the knowledge of. So what is considered a conflict of interest? If you or any team member has any affiliation with any of the applicants, then the member should recuse himself or herself from the team for that particular procurement. Conflict of interest could mean owning or having a financial interest in an applicant, having a relative working for one of the applicants, having previously worked for any of the applicants, current or past member of the board of directors for any of the applicants, served or serving as an advisor, consultant, representative to or for any applicant. Conflict of interest could also occur when one evaluation committee member may have undue influence over other evaluators that would prevent impartial provider selection. Next, do you need to train your evaluators? Yes, that would be more than a good idea. All evaluators should be trained, even if they played an active part in developing the RFP. All evaluators should be trained together. Then all can hear the same thing as far as what the expectations are and any questions and answers that come up. The coordinator would usually be the one to organize and conduct the training. It's a good idea to have an agenda. A sample agenda for your evaluation team orientation is available on the SPO website, which is spo.hawaii.gov. Search keywords, forms, and templates. Topics which you may want to cover are a summary of the RFP process, the applicants submitting proposals, any conflicts of interest, confidentiality, the RFP content, the evaluation process, the evaluation criteria, the evaluation score sheet and statements of findings and decisions, and also you'll allow time for questions and answers. Even evaluators have commandments for being an evaluator. First, evaluators shall be trained and abide by the instructions and rules. Second, there shall be no conflicts of interest or appearances of conflict of interest. Third, be familiar with the RFP and ask questions if any part of the RFP is unclear. Fourth, know the evaluation criteria. And fifth, evaluate each proposal based solely on the evaluation criteria stated in the RFP and don't compare proposals. Each proposal shall be evaluated slowly on its own merit. Six, proposal content should be kept confidential and shall not be discussed with coworkers, family, or friends, and shall not be left unsecured, meaning out in the open. Seven, take notes and provide comments to justify the scores given. And eight, be courteous to other evaluators. Okay, let's move on to the evaluation process. When it comes to scoring, there are two ways that proposals can be evaluated and scored. First, evaluators may score individually, whereby the scores are tallied and averaged. Or second, group scoring, whereby the committee evaluates and scores as a group. You know, group scoring has its advantages. As a group, the evaluators can share and discuss findings and determine the basis for the scores given. Group discussions are also helpful in that one evaluator may have seen something that another may have missed. There are various ways that a proposal can be evaluated to arrive at the bottom line score. Check out the various RFPs on the RFP website to find examples. The two RFPs noted on this slide are two examples. Whatever method used to evaluate and score proposals, describe fully how it's going to be done so there's no misunderstanding or question as to how the final score was derived. When the evaluators are evaluating the proposals, be sure that the evaluations are based solely upon the evaluation criteria and their relative priorities as established in the RFP. Evaluations, whether done individually or as a group, shall be done in writing. Numerical scoring shall be accompanied by a written explanation or justification for the scores given. Then, when all the proposals are evaluated, the proposal shall be ranked from least to most advantageous based on the evaluation scores. Occasionally, there will be errors within the proposal. Correction of errors after submittal deadline is covered under HAR Section 3-143-606. Only patent errors are correctable. According to the rules, a patent error is an error that is readily ascertainable by a reasonable, knowledgeable person in the field of health and human services. Now, that's a mouthful. What it's basically saying is that a patent error is one which will have no effect on the scoring or evaluation outcome. Examples of patent errors would be arithmetic, typographical, and transposition errors. Omitted signatures or missing table of contents could also be considered patent errors. A word about arithmetic errors. If an applicant has an extension error, The extension can be corrected. As an example, if the applicant proposes $100 per bid day for 365 days and enters the total as $3,650 instead of $36,500, the total extension can be corrected. As an FYI, the base unit rate can never be changed by the purchasing agency. Using the same example, if the applicant made a mistake and instead of entering $100 per bid day, entered $1 per bid day as the unit rate, but the extension was down as $36,500, because you don't know whether the wrong entry or unit rate was intentional or unintentional on the part of the applicant, you cannot change the unit rate. In this case, the total extension can be changed from $36,500 to $365, but you can't change the $1 unit rate. If by chance an applicant in this case is in contention for an award, then you can call the state procurement office for options. As an exercise, let's look to see which of these are patent errors. If an applicant omitted submitting the checklist, is that a patent error? If you said yes, that's correct. The checklist would not affect the evaluation or the outcome of the proposal. If an applicant submits the wrong performance measures and wants to submit the correct ones after the proposal submittal deadline, is that a patent error, or would you allow the applicant to submit it? If you think this is a patent error, then you're wrong. In this scenario, the mistake is not a patent error. The performance measures would be something that would be evaluated and scored. And in fairness to all other applicants, the applicant would not be able to submit the performance measures after the proposal submittal deadline. Now, what if the applicant did not sign the proposal application? Would that be a patent error? Yes, that can be a patent error. It would not affect the evaluation or the outcome. Lastly, if an applicant forgot to submit the budget justification for personnel, would that be a patent error? In this case, it would not be a patent error that can be corrected after the proposal submittal deadline. During the evaluation of that particular section, the proposal would be marked down as applicable based on the established criteria. Hopefully, you now have a better idea of what is and what isn't a patent error. Now let's talk about discussion with applicants after proposal submittal deadline, which is covered under HAR Section 3-143-403. Discussion with applicants after proposal submittal deadline may be conducted to clarify elements of the RFP or the proposal. As an example, you receive 3 proposals in response to an RFP, but for one particular section, all 3 applicants seem to have missed the point. You could have a discussion with each of the applicants to clarify their understanding of the section, which could result in requesting for a final revised proposal. If you require discussions with applicants after proposal submittal deadline for clarification purposes, then establish procedures to the discussion. Provide enough time to speak to the applicant, and have a discussion format and topics which are to be discussed. HAR Section 3-143-301 discusses addenda after submittal deadline. Addenda issued after proposal submittal deadline are issued for the purposes of clarification, correction, modification, which is not a material change to the RFP, or for final revised proposal. What is considered to be a material change? Pursuant to HAR Section 3-143-301, 403E, material change is any change that would have affected a potential applicant's decision not to apply. Okay, let's look at some examples. Would these be considered a material change after the proposal submittal deadline? Would increasing the units of service by 50% be a material change? Yes, it would be a material change because a provider who did not submit a proposal might say, had I known that the units of service would be so much, I would have submitted a proposal. Okay. Second, what if a purchasing agency wants to add $100,000 to an existing $100,000 contract? Would that constitute a material change? Yes, that would be a material change. Increased contract funding 100% may have a potential applicant say, had I known it would be $200,000 contract, I would have submitted a proposal. Third, what if a purchasing agency wants to change the content of a required monthly report? In most instances, reporting would be incidental to the contract. Therefore, it would not be a deciding point as to why a potential applicant would not submit a proposal. However, if the reporting requirements were so stringent and convoluted that it wasn't worth the time for the potential applicant to submit a proposal, but now the purchasing agency wants to relax the reporting requirements, then the potential applicant might say that initially it might not have been worth their time. However, had they known it would be more relaxed, they would have submitted a proposal. So depending on how it's structured, this example could go either way. Okay, a little bit about final revised proposals, which is covered under HAR Section 3-143-607. Final revised proposals allows responsive and responsible applicants to make a best and final offer or to respond to matters such as those raised through discussion. The call for final revised proposals is done by way of an addendum, which shall include 1. Information that the addendum is a request for final revised proposal. 2. The submittal deadline. 3. Procedure for submittal if the procedure is different from submitting the original proposals. 4. Instructions that only the sections amended should be submitted. And 5. A statement that if the applicant does not submit a final revised proposal, the last proposal submitted shall be considered to be the final revised proposal. Now, what happens if only one proposal is received or all proposals received are either not responsive to the RFP or not submitted by a responsible provider? Or what happens if no proposals are received? If you look at HAR Section 3-143-609, it provides options for treatment of a single proposal or when no proposals or no useful proposals are received. First, let's talk about treatment of a single proposal. When only one proposal is received in response to an RFP, you can 1. Do a cost analysis to validate the proposal's cost factors, including cost or pricing data. Or 2, you can award if both of the following conditions are met. And the conditions are that the proposal is responsive, the terms are reasonable and satisfactory, and other prospective applicants had a reasonable opportunity to respond. Thirdly, you can reject the proposal. If the conditions under item 2 are not met, then you can either reissue the RFP or cancel altogether. Or, or you can enter into direct negotiations with the applicant, but your purchasing agency needs to do a written determination that shows that the need for the service continues and that the single proposal is not satisfactory and reasonable, and there is no time to reissue a new RFP or resoliciting would be futile. If you do not receive any proposals or you receive no useful proposals, then you can reissue the RFP. You can revise the services and reissue the RFP. You can cancel the procurement altogether, or you can select without competition. If the option is to select without competition, then the purchasing agency shall do a written determination based on 1, competition in the marketplace, 2, the potential cost to resolicit will exceed the benefit, and 3, any other relevant factors. Aside from mandatory rejection, proposal can be rejected for reasons including but not limited to failure to cooperate or deal in good faith, inadequate accounting system, late proposal submittal, the proposal is not responsive, or the provider is not responsible. Now let's say that after the proposal submittal deadline, but before award, the purchasing agency wants to cancel the RFP. Can they? Pursuant to HRR Section 3-143-613, the RFP can be canceled for the following reasons: faulty specifications, the purchasing agency left out major service factors, there's no adequate responsive proposals received, there are reasons to believe that the proposals were not independently arrived at, there is collusion or submitted in bad faith, there is a lack of funding, or any other reason determined to be good cause. When an RFP is canceled after the submittal deadline, but before the award, a notice of cancellation shall be sent to all applicants or prospective applicants and shall include the following: identification of the RFP, a brief explanation of the reason or reasons for cancellation, when appropriate, a statement that the RFP will be resolicited, and any other pertinent information as applicable. If the evaluations are done by individual evaluators, then the evaluation sheet and the comments become part of the procurement file. If the evaluations are done as group scoring, only the group scores and comments become part of the procurement file, and individuals' notes do not become part of the file in group scoring. Evaluation score sheets and comments are accessible to the public after contracts are executed by all parties. Also to be included in the procurement file are a listing of all evaluators and any evaluator changes, the final evaluation score for each applicant and the basis and the comments for the scores, the register of proposals, and a record of any RFP cancellation and rejection notices as applicable.